Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to work on a few prompts for the Gel Print January challenge. And I think I'm just going to do 4 prompts as a video, and then I'll do the last 3 prompts at my live on Wednesday on the 31st. So we're going to do mini, geometric, grunge, DIY texture. So I'm just going to probably do a voiceover because I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I have a few ideas. So I'm just going to do it, play on the jelly plate. I'm going to start with my 8x10 plate and probably gonna make a base print and then add some things, and then I have an idea. And again, this challenge is hosted by Tanya Ahmed and it's for Gel Print January. So I start out just making some simple lines for the geometric prompt, and I'm using a Posca paint pen, which is an acrylic paint pen. You have to let it dry before you pick it up, but we're gonna be adding lots of different layers here. So I'm using a ruler because I want it nice and straight. I like how it sort of beads up a little bit and you get a texture on it. So I'm excited to use this graphite Amsterdam paint. It's acrylic paint. I'm just adding a bit of water, and I'm going to do some do-it-yourself texture just using my fingers. And I'm just using that to make some fingerprints, and it beads up. I will kind of go back and remove some of the thicker areas because it seemed to be taking quite a while to dry. And this turns out really shiny in the final print, which is pretty cool. It's very subtle, but it's shiny. You'll see what I mean. And I just thought it was fun to use my fingers. It doesn't get more DIY than that. So here I'm just removing a little bit of extra thickness. So get a really cool dendritic pattern from that. Can't really tell it's fingerprints. And also you can see the texture in how that Posca paint pen dried. So I let this dry completely. Here's some items I'm going to use for more grungy do-it-yourself texture. That's some packaging. This is a piece of a comb that broke from the dollar store. Here are some washers I glued onto some cardboard, and those I made a couple years ago. Here's some other type, I don't know what kind of washers those are. And I'd made those for a Bridget Coopson gel print challenge a couple years ago. And a little wrench. So here's the first layer of color I'm going to use. I'm going to use these 3 colors, and I'm going to separate them sort of into zones and mix them together a little bit as well. I'm just getting a little bit extra of that fluid off that dark blue one. So I keep them kind of in zones, and that turquoise blue I put on a little bit too thick, but we'll work with it. So I'm using these handmade stamps to pull paint off of the jelly plate. And so we're adding grunginess, we're adding more geometric shapes, and it's a do-it-yourself type of texture. You may have noticed when I was using the stamp in the turquoise section, I would use the stamp a few times in the same spot to remove more paint. And I'm adding a little bit more texture with that comb because I want to try to grungify it up a little bit more. I had lots of fun doing this. I took my time, and I liked how the comb looked dragged through the Posca paint pen as well. Here's that packaging that has that honeycomb sort of shape to it. And here's the colors I'm going to use for the pickup. And again, I do them by zone. And again, I put way too much paint on this 8x10 plate. So you're going to see me brayer those on kind of in zones, and then I'm going to really be pulling a lot off. So I wanted to make sure that I had contrast between the first layer of paint and this pickup layer. So where I had orange before, I put more of the titanium buff and that sort of celadon kind of color. And then where I had the blue, I put more of the quinacridone gold to pick it up. And here I laid down my paper. So I make sure that I press those corners down as much as I can, and there's quite a bit of paint on here, so I let that sit for quite a few minutes. And here we are pulling off the print. We're going to do a lot more layers to this, but I'm pretty happy with this first layer. I'm just going to show you up close the textures. And if you notice that graphite, those fingerprints in graphite, straight on, they're very subtle, but when I rotate that page, it's kind of like really bright and reflective. So I thought that was pretty cool. My favorite parts are the orange parts, I think, peeking through. I like that. Now for the mini prompt, I decided to take out my 4-inch round jelly plate, which I consider my mini plate. And also for the mini prompt, I'm going to be turning this page into a zine. So that's at the end of the video, you'll see that. And I thought I'd try adding these infusions. This is a rusty hinge color. I thought it would look kind of cool. kind of didn't do very much. I tried another time, but I feel like it didn't really add much to this. I was just sort of putting on, taking off paint. So I took too much paint off, so I'm adding back a bit more of the aqua green. And my idea is I wanted a nice opaque layer, and I would off stamp the paint so I'd have the other layer showing through. So I'm using this foam stamp from PM Artist Studio. Link will be below. This is a design by Eddie Makes Art, and it's nice and geometric, and I really wanted to use it on this project. I'm trying that baby powder technique to see if I can, make it look more distressed, but it didn't really work in this application. But I do want to try it again in another video sometime. I decided to put that over the area of blue that was kind of boring to me, and I let it sit for a few minutes. And when I pull it off, I'm a little disappointed. It's a bit too opaque. I think I had too much paint on there, but we're gonna add more layers, so have no fear. And I'm attempting to use that rusty hinge one more time. I'm activating with some water, with some Titan Buff, and it does make it a nice brown color. I don't know that I could have just used a brown. Now each time you see me going off camera with the stamp, I'm off stamping it so that I remove the paint and I can go back and take more paint off. And I use a bit of tracing paper to lift off a bit more paint so I have more underlayers showing through. So I place that down on the paper and I give it a good rub. This is a reminder to make sure you wash your foam stamps. If you use acrylic paint with them, wash them right away, otherwise it can ruin the stamp. And that color looked very blah to me. I did not like it at all. So I'm adding more of the quinacridone nickel azo gold, and it dries pretty fast. So I had to put another layer on, and using the comb, I'm going to use Eddie's stamp again, and we're going to put it back over that area that I didn't like and just rotating it. I love that orange color. To me, it's like a nice rusty color. I don't leave it on very long. It transfers pretty quickly this time. I put the leftovers down at the bottom. So here we're going to use that graphite color again. And this time I use the comb again and more of Eddie's stamps. And I'm going to try to add some interest to that light blue circle that again is kind of boring. I want to make this look grungy. Give that a good press, and I just lift it up right away. I think once you've got some extra layers, it transfers. It seems to transfer pretty quickly. It was drying quickly anyhow. Now that's too opaque, so we're gonna keep adding. So just, with mixed media, you just add layers till you're happy with it, right? And you're gonna see in a minute, I'm gonna actually remove layers. I'm gonna use a baby wipe to wipe things away. Using that wrench and then that stamp again. More texture. And that is more of a transparent paint, so you'll see more richness to that. I like that. Now that looks good to me. I can't remember if I add more to it or not. So I'm adding more of that Posca paint pen, and this time I'm adding the striations with the comb right away because I really liked how that looked. And I'm going to be, adding layers. Just keep going till you're happy. Like you don't have to be in a rush. I'm just enjoying the process. And because I'm going to be making this into a mini journal, which is called a zine, I'm not overly worried about the composition of this piece because it's going to all be folded up, and I can't really control where things are going to show up in the final zine anyhow. I decided to add that Titan Buff, and I feel like I ruined it. So here's where I start grabbing the baby wipe. And I actually wiped off that Posca paint pen too because it wasn't, unfortunately it wasn't dry yet, but we add it back in later. So I removed some of that Titan Buff, exposing some of the, layers beneath. And I thought that looked kind of cool. That did make it look more grungy. And more of this aqua green. Trying to keep it not as opaque, like not as full of a layer. Use that tracing paper to remove more of that paint. Where am I going to add this? I don't know. Where do I add it? I can't decide, obviously. Oh, I'm taking more paint off, and then I add it up there, take it off quickly, and I get my baby wipe ready right away because I don't think I like that. Oh, I guess I didn't get my baby wipe ready. I think I do wipe it later though. Adding some more of those Posca lines. And I tried to restamp it, but that Posca was already dry by that point. I don't think it did a lot. and adding some black back in, removing a lot of that. So I want just a hint of black, so I'm using Eddie's stamp, that foam stamp, over and over and over till there's a lot more space than there is black paint, and hopefully it doesn't dry too fast. Oh, I added another layer up there, and it's starting to look muddy, so here's where I take my baby wipe and I expose that nice orange area. And even more. So you're getting some of the transparent paint with the layers underneath showing through, which I like. And more of that black Posca. We want some nice geometric lines, some geometric circles. We have all sorts of geometric shapes going on here. And I don't want to cover some of those really yummy textures. I tried to keep the circles to areas that I wasn't overly excited by, and I didn't want to cover especially those nice orange areas. I don't know, I just like that orange peeking through with the blue. And here I decide I need one more circle because even though I don't really need a composition, I just want it, I don't know, I just want more blue in there. And I didn't like that blue at the top or here, it was just too much. And I will, even once the print is done, I add a bit more of that blue away. So we're back to the Titan buff. I don't even remember what I did. It was just so many layers. Oh yeah, I didn't like that blue at the top. So I'm adding just a row of those triple washers, and I'm trying to decide what orientation to put it in. Plop it on there, why not? And it really seemed to dry pretty fast. So I like that. I feel like it balanced it a bit better, even though, like I said, I'm going to be folding up this piece of paper. But I want to add that line back in. So it's looking cool. I'm liking it. I'm digging it. But I think I decide that I need another circle. Even though, like I said, I wasn't worried about composition, apparently I wanted to add a third circle. Again, I'm trying to remove a lot of that paint so that we see the layers underneath. When I combed it, it kind of smushed that pattern, so I put the foam stamp back on, and then a few more of those triple washers. I didn't want to cover up too much of those lovely orange areas though, so I do get my handy dandy baby wipe out and I brush it away or wash it away. It's surprising how long that Posca paint pen takes to dry. Like it wipes off pretty easy. And I want one more circle. I'm determined, but I don't want to hide any of that texture. So I decide to use the Posca paint pen just around the perimeter of my jelly plate. Use my little comb-y thing, and then I make a circle that does not block the layers below it. And then I'm happy. That makes me happy. And I want to add a few more of those black lines. Because once I fold it, I do want a little bit of black on each page. Wow, I didn't realize how many layers I put on this print. So it is grungy. Oh, another black line. Wow, I really went to town. I feel like there's another one coming. I feel like there's another black line. Yep, there it is. We're gonna do one more there. I think that's the last one. So this was a fun print. So we did our prompts, mini, geometric, grunge, and DIY texture. But I do want to do a little bit more with the mini aspect. Oh, that didn't work. It dried. I think it dried. I took too long and it dried up. So I redo it. And then at the end, I will show, I do a pickup print of those 2 lines on that 5x7 plate, and I will show that in the end of the video. So there we go. And here's our lovely textures. Like I said, I really like the the orange, and I like the paint peeking through. I like all the layers. It's a pretty bright, grungy print. And there, that blue is too, I didn't like that little bit of blue right there. You'll see me point it to. Yeah, I didn't like that. So let's wipe that down. Just soften it a little bit. There we go. And you can see that graphite fingerprints peeking through in that shininess. So I've cut it down with my cutter, and now I'm making the zine. If you don't want to make a zine, you can skip to the end. So basically you fold it in half, and then you fold it in half again. I guess people talk about hamburger style, hot dog style. I don't know. You fold it up into 8 sections, and then you cut the middle 2 there. I had trouble seeing, I was working at night, and even though it's pretty bright here, I had trouble seeing where that middle line was. So I used a pen just to make sure I'm in the right spot. And then I used my craft knife on my mat and carefully sliced through the middle 2 sections. And you'll see me pick it up, and then you fold it and you pull it apart. I try to do this a little bit slower so you can, I'm a little bit off camera, but you fold it up, and then you use your bone folder to get it to behave. Here my slice was a little messy, so I'm trimming it, and kind of with the paint on there, I'm really trying to work it to get it to fold properly. And I decide to cheat, and where there's a little bit of white showing through, I just decide to use my Posca to camouflage it. So there we go. And then I camouflage some other edges, and the jelly plate has a rounded corner, but I didn't want to round the corners, so I just used the Posca pen to fill in those little corners. And here we're edging the edge of the paper so it won't be white. And then you don't have to glue it, but I decided to glue it because it wasn't, behaving. So I just used some Eileen's Tacky to glue the corners together. And these are great for Happy Mail. They're fun little books. And I don't really know what embellishments I'm going to add to it. You will see at the end I do add some stickers. I'd keep it really simple, and just to give you an idea of just what you can do. And I wanted to show you a flip through without the stickers first, so you could see how you get, just random marks without planning, and it makes it a little surprised. You don't really know how it's going to turn out. So now I'm going to show you the finished project. So here's our finished mini journal, and when I was choosing stickers from the sticker book, the Antiquarian Sticker Book, I was really finding a lot of birds that went with the colors, so I decided to make it a bird theme. Put a bird on it, and I used jelly rolls to outline the images. And so you can see it doesn't really matter what the composition of the page was, because when it's got folded, it's just kind of interesting lines, and I kind of tried to use the lines to decide which birds to put on. And then I also cut out stickers from that book. So I cut out BIRD. And I just liked, this guy had a log, so I cut the log out so he looks like he's on that line that we created. And then these little fun guys. I thought the yellow kind of brought out this color in here. And then the back page is a woodpecker. So I had a lot of fun making this little journal. It's not too precious. You just kind of, what's it for? It's not really for anything. It's just for fun and to play with colors. And I liked, there's some areas that I did not want to cover because I just really enjoyed the texture. I seem to like the oranges when they peek out. I just found the orange areas really pleasant to look at. And I liked, how Eddie's stamp, he showed through the other colors there. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I also ended up with a couple ghost prints to pick up the leftover Posca markers. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Bye-bye.